Hey guys, I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and yesterday I showed you an epic QWERTY battle, haha, no pun intended, between the Samsung Epic 4G and the HTC EVO Shift 4G, two awesome devices on Sprint. Well, the fun continues today with a dogfight between the HTC EVO Shift 4G and the T-Mobile G2, both great devices on their respective carriers, both 4G, and actually these are pretty close or closer in terms of specs versus the Epic 4G. Both have 800 MHz next-gen Snapdragon processors, 3.6-inch display, 3.7-inch display, physical QWERTY keyboards, 5-megapixel cameras. They're pretty similar, but in a dogfight, only one can come out on top. Which will it be? We have to watch the video. Special thanks to our PR friends for hooking us up with these, Sprint and T-Mobile, and special thanks to our friends at Best Buy for hooking us up with 4 of these, two for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway so we can give you phones. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you walk out working, you don't have to deal with any paperwork or any mail-in rebates, and they'll set you up out the door. Enough of that, let's get into the dogfight. Who's going to win? So bam, it's time for a browser test on both of these devices. Actually, before we go into the browser test, let's take a look at the phone application, because I just want to show you the difference between stock Android phone app and HTC Sense phone app, since both of these are HTC devices. Made by the same company, but when you go into the phone app, you'd never notice because they do look pretty different. You have your number pads in the same place, a little bit more of an island key separation here, and you have your typical 4 buttons up here: call log, contacts, and then your favorites, which obviously the people you call the most. Voicemail, back, and then dial here. So you do have a kind of a similar setup. This is call log. But one thing I have to give Sense, I've always been a big fan of Sense, and one thing I have to give it credit for, out of many, it has this nice, smooth transition effects. They've really refined it over the years between all groups, online directories, and call history. So you can see a lot of information. And when you go into a contact, like people, let's say I go into Billy Bob, you can see not only his home, his message, his ringtone, customize, send him to voicemail, change his ringtone, but you can also go down here and go through messages, mail, updates and events, gallery, call history, so I can see the text messages I've sent him over a selected time frame, what email I've sent him, which is kind of a frustration because actually the last time I checked, Gmail is not included in that mail. I could be wrong, and let me know in the comments if I am, but you can see gallery, and you can go through and see a lot of different things, so it's a nice, organized, very streamlined application. But to jump back into the phone, so you can see the differences there. And, for a device or 2 devices that are made by the exact same company but running slightly different versions of software, it's pretty noticeable. Let's take a look. Internet, and it's browser on this one, and we'll see what they look like. And there, kind of test the pinch to zoom, things like that. Phone Dog. There we are, PhoneDog.com. And then we'll load it up on this one. And I think you saw, I was typing in Phone Dog just a little bit slower on this one. It's just little things like that. I like the keyboard better on the EVO Shift. So it's loading up on the T-Mobile G2, and let's see what it looks like. Both of these are flash capable, so you may see a little bit of a slowdown as the page is loading and while you're pinch to zooming, but you can see the advertisements. You can see our dynamic stuff at the top that's flash, that's running flash. But overall, to me, there is a little bit of a lag in the pinch to zoom when you're dealing with something like this versus the iPhone 4 or some other devices. Let's see, pinch to zoom, zoom in, zoom out, zoom over. So it's reasonably fast. It's, like I said, both of these are running that next generation Snapdragon processor. But to me, the slight edge goes to the EVO Shift just because of the speed. It's a little bit faster to me. And you can see the menu options are pretty similar across the board, just organized a little bit differently. You can open new windows, you can see settings, you can go back, you can go forward, select your bookmarks, etc., etc. The only difference here, the refresh buttons down here on the G2, the refresh buttons up the top on the EVO Shift. Both of these have 5-megapixel cameras, and with a flash as well. And we'll take a look at both of those just to get a rough idea of what they look like, and both have camcorders, obviously. High-end smartphone with a camcorder. Let's take a look at the Palm Pre 2, which I just unboxed, and it's asking me for the lock code. And I don't have the lock code, so that makes me sad. It's a Rogers Palm Pre 2, but we'll get an idea. Both of these have autofocus, so just autofocused in there, and we'll autofocus this one in. I'm telling you, that physical camera button really makes a huge difference, to me at least. So we'll go into the gallery, and I mean, you see, you know, again, stock Android camera app, HTC Sense camera app. You see some minor differences in where things are located. And you can see over here on the side, here are your settings, go through store location, your white balance, flash mode, your zoom, etc., etc. Whereas on this one, you can see some of it on the side, the flash, and a couple other things, but you really see on this side, once you pull out that drawer, you see photo, video, image properties, effects, things of that nature. So it's over on the left side versus being on the right side, like typical Android. Let's open up that picture, see what it looks like on both of these devices. Throw it in landscape. Throw this one in landscape. Bring that up. There we go. So you look at the difference between the two. Bring that one back up. And you know, honestly, I mean, the very similar for the most part. I would probably, just looking at it this way, see if I can get them to zoom out on the camera without sending it to email, I'd give a slight edge to the T-Mobile G2. And that could be a number of things. That could be lighting. That could be the fact that there's not enough light on the left side and there's a little bit more on the right side. But just in an unofficial camera test, I would give it to the G2. So not, again, unofficial, but keep that in mind there. So that aside, let's take a look at two more things: speed test and Quadrant standard, because it's going to be a pretty interesting battle given that both of these have the same processor. Who will win? It's going to be a tight race, but somebody's going to pull ahead. Wouldn't it be funny if I said somebody's going to pull ahead and they got the exact same score? That would be my luck. We'll run the full benchmark on both of these devices, and while they're running, I'll tell you a little bit about call quality on both of these. You know, even though I do that in the review, I've been really pleased with the EVO Shift. I used it in Las Vegas, and obviously, you know, CES is just terrible in terms of cell coverage in Las Vegas. AT&T doesn't work well for, I mean, they all don't work well, but I was very pleased with the EVO Shift out of all the devices. Was very impressed with the call quality on both 3G and, you know, 4G for data worked very well. No real issues whatsoever. Obviously, when you're in the basement, you know, first floor of a hotel, none of the carriers work, but when I was out in the streets, this worked pretty well. I like the keyboard a lot, like the way it looks, and because it has that 1500 milliamp battery, which, you know, is the same battery the EVO has, so same battery as the EVO, but the screen's 3.6 inches versus 4.3. It's a really huge improvement in battery life. Been very pleased. Makes it easily through the day, and much better. T-Mobile G2 is good as well, but I know you want to see the speed test. Was pleased with the call quality on this one as well. 1501 on the G2. Let's see what it is on this one. 1530 by 29 points. The EVO Shift beats out the T-Mobile G2. So it's definitely a 1530. Let me get those up close so you can see. So you're not like, he's lying, he's lying. 1530 to 1501 by 29 points. EVO Shift takes the cake. So kudos to that one. Let's take a look at the networks. This one will be a little bit more interesting because this is running, obviously, T-Mobile's HSPA Plus. Or 4G, whereas this is running Sprint's 4G. Interestingly enough, I have a cell site right there that's T-Mobile and Sprint capable, but the interesting challenge I've been having is that none of them the data speeds haven't been fantastic at all. They've actually been pretty terrible. So let's go into settings, make sure that loads. This thing takes forever to lock on. Let's see. Come on, come on. Okay, so while that's locking on, actually, I can talk about the G2 now. Call quality was very good. I've taken it. I've worked with it mostly in the Charlotte metro area, and I've been pleased. I mean, T-Mobile, they all really work well here. It's a melting pot. It's a big city. What can you expect? But they all work well, and the call quality's been good. The earpiece has been very loud on both of these devices. HTC does a really good job with that. And no, I'm not in Jackson, Tennessee. I'm in Charlotte. And we'll begin the test and see which one wins. Looks like full coverage on both. Let's see. It's going to be a challenge. But like, you look at both of those speeds, and you're like, for HSPA Plus or WiMAX, you have 4G, what their respective carriers call 4G. Those are not good speeds. Like, those are, you know, it should be running in the 5 to 10 megabits per second range first, not the 2.5 or 2.1 megabits per second range. But this one pulls ahead slightly. 2.5 megabits per second on the EVO Shift, 2.1 megabits per second on the G2. Let's run another test and see where it comes out. Let's see. Okay, that one's running a little better on the Sprint side. There we go. 4.2, roughly 4.2 megabits per second here on the upload. About 1.1 megabits per second. again, the G2 is kind of struggling in this department. 1.3, 1.3 across the board. You know, that said, I mean, you know, as much as I like to tout the big city thing, we are consistently ranked on J.D. Power's list one of the worst metro areas for cell phone service. So, you know, it could be an issue, it could be this cell site, who knows, but you know, it's been up and down. That's actually the best score I've seen on the EVO Shift in Charlotte. So, you know, who knows? But the speeds definitely haven't been that great across the board. Much more coverage to come on both of these devices. I have to crown a winner in the Dogfight, so I'm crowning it to the EVO Shift just for the best combination of features, power, and more. This one's a great device as well. Don't get me wrong, if you're on T-Mobile, you should definitely consider it. The keyboard is one of the best keyboards in the industry, if not the best keyboard in the industry. But at the end of the day, if you want the speed, you want the sense experience, you want, you know, just that raw power that comes from, or I shouldn't say raw power, it was only 29 points ahead, but still, you know, you want a cool device and one that performs well to boot and is $50 cheaper than the EVO with a great battery, go with the EVO Shift. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with both of these devices, but be interested. In the meantime, be sure to like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. A few more days to win or potentially win a Galaxy Tab, BlackBerry Playbook, or Apple iPad. Facebook.com/PhoneDog. And be sure to leave a comment or otherwise interesting statements you think I should say in my next video in the comment section below. You'll see that I called out the guy or the girl earlier in the video for being a 4G speed texter. But, and I'm going to do that in all of my videos going forward if that's something you guys like. So leave a comment, an interesting statement, whatever, and I could use it in my next video. Thanks for watching. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com. Follow me on Twitter, PhoneDog_Aaron. Do all of that. Have a great weekend. Yada, yada, yada. Fill in the blanks here. Thanks for watching.